In 2007, a Defense Intelligence Agency scientist named James Lacatski walked into a rundown ranch house in the Utah Badlands. Within 60 minutes, a semi-opaque, yellowish, tubular structure materialized in the kitchen, hovering silently in midair for 30 seconds before vanishing without a trace. Lacatski, a ballistic missile physicist with decades of experience, had seen something that should not exist. That single encounter would set in motion a $22 million Pentagon program to study what was happening at Skinwalker Ranch, and what was happening to the people who went there. Senator Harry Reid, working with Senators Ted Stevens and Daniel Inouye, secured the funding in secret. The contract went to aerospace billionaire Robert Bigelow, who had already purchased the ranch and spent years investigating it through his National Institute for Discovery Science. Now, under the official name AAWSAP, the Advanced Aerospace Weapons System Applications Program, Bigelow's subsidiary BAS assembled a team of more than 50 investigators, scientists, and analysts. Their mission was unprecedented: investigate not only the physical technology behind unidentified aerial phenomena, but the paranormal dimensions that seemed inseparable from the encounters. Armed security officers patrolled the 500-acre property around the clock. Sensor equipment blanketed the landscape, and the data they collected would terrify everyone involved. Skinwalker Ranch was not simply a place where lights appeared in the sky. It was a living laboratory of the impossible. BAS teams interviewed 30 residents within a 2-mile radius, and 11 of them described first-hand encounters with a dog-like or wolf-like creature that ran on 2 legs, standing 6 to 7 feet tall. Many sightings occurred in broad daylight. Silent blue orbs, white orbs, yellow and red orbs flew low across the pastures with apparent intelligent control. In 1996, a rancher sent his 3 dogs chasing after a baseball-sized blue orb. The orb led them into thick undergrowth. He heard high-pitched yelps, then silence. The next morning, he found 3 circles of dried vegetation with 3 black greasy lumps in their centers. The dogs were never seen again. In the fall of 2009, Pentagon analyst Juliet Witt visited the ranch with Bigelow and Kelleher. That night, as the trio sat in the moonlit pasture near the abandoned Homestead 2, a cone of silence descended. The crickets stopped. The breeze died. Then a creature the size of a 150-pound pig came gliding toward them, utterly soundless, with dinosaur-like spines running down its back and a large, flattened beaver-like tail. It passed within 30 feet of Kelleher and 50 feet of Witt before vanishing around the corner of the building. They ran after it. Nothing. It had appeared from the darkness and dissolved back into it without leaving a single trace. The shaken analyst insisted a security officer sleep outside her room that night with every light in the house burning. What happened to Witt after she returned to her quiet Virginia townhouse changed everything the program understood about Skinwalker Ranch. Within a week, her roommate woke screaming at 2 in the morning, swearing someone was standing over his bed. Heavy footsteps pounded up and down the stairs. Loud bangs erupted from the kitchen. A gigantic owl-like bird attacked her car as she backed out of her driveway, its talons gouging the paint. 2 wine bottles flew off a rack and smashed against the opposite wall while both occupants watched. Her roommate fled. Black shadow figures appeared near her bed at night. The phenomena continued for years. Witt was adamant, nothing like this had ever happened before her visit to the ranch. She had brought something home. This was not the only contagion. All 5 intelligence professionals who visited the ranch during the AAWSAP program experienced profound anomalies on the property, and all 5 brought something home. But the blue orbs were the most dangerous. In May 2005, a biotechnologist named Ron Becker was driving through rural Oregon when his daughter noticed 3 bright blue orbs playing in a nearby field. The orbs changed direction and flew straight at their car. 2 passed through the vehicle. One entered Becker's upper left arm, traveled through his chest, and exited through his right bicep. His daughter watched in horror. Within days, Becker developed nausea, hair loss, a skin rash, and rapid weight gain. 18 months later, he was diagnosed with an extremely rare form of cancer, ductal carcinoma in situ, directly in the path the orb had traveled through his body. The pattern was unmistakable. Jonathan Axelrod, a senior intelligence professional, visited the ranch in July 2009. Within weeks, his wife and teenage sons were experiencing nightmarish phenomena. Dogmen appeared in their Virginia backyard. Blue, red, yellow, and white orbs floated through their home. Black shadow people stood over their beds. Relentless footsteps pounded the stairs every night. His younger son Paul was attacked in his bedroom on February 7, 2011, by blue and red orbs that dove at him repeatedly, leaving angry red welts across his face, chest, and stomach. Black shadow humanoid figures screamed telepathically through the night. The boy woke sick, feverish, and traumatized. And within months, Axelrod's school friends began reporting their own encounters. One saw a large wolf-like creature staring through his bedroom window. Another saw blue lights flying around his backyard. The phenomenon was spreading like a disease. The medical toll was devastating. Jim Costigan visited the ranch, and months later, a blue orb grazed his wife Layla's shoulder during a walk in their quiet Maryland neighborhood. She immediately fell ill. After weeks of specialist visits, she was diagnosed with Hashimoto's thyroiditis, an autoimmune disease. Axelrod's wife suffered flare-ups of lupus and Raynaud's disease. Family after family reported autoimmune diagnoses: Graves' disease, Sjogren syndrome, rheumatoid arthritis, fibromyalgia. Bass concluded that the UAP phenomenon was a direct threat to human health. The immune system itself appeared to be recording the insult, as measurable changes in blood chemistry, shifting neutrophil and lymphocyte ratios, elevated liver enzymes, and the emergence of autoimmune conditions followed close encounters. While the paranormal investigations consumed the ranch, AAWSAP was simultaneously conducting one of the most important military investigations in history. In November 2004, off the coast of California, Commander David Fravor and 3 other Navy pilots encountered the Tic Tac, a white, featureless, elongated object hovering over the ocean like a Harrier jet. When Fravor descended to investigate, the object appeared to recognize him. It mirrored his movements, then accelerated away at supersonic speed. Within seconds, Princeton radar operators reported the Tic Tac had appeared at the pilot's secret combat air patrol point, 60 nautical miles away, at the exact latitude, longitude, and altitude. A location only a handful of people knew. AAWSAP's investigation, led by Jonathan Axelrod, concluded the object was not owned by the United States, China, or Russia. The encounters were not limited to the ranch or the ocean. In May 2009, a Georgia man named Derek Jones spotted a massive, silent triangle, roughly 300 feet long, hovering above his backyard with 4 smaller objects darting around it. When Jones aimed a spotlight at the triangle, it responded instantly. A beam of intense bluish-white light struck him for 3 seconds, burning his neck and shoulders. Within days, he developed nausea, hair loss, a metallic taste, and abnormal blood counts. Lumps began appearing across his body. Eventually, 24 separate nodules were documented. 2 men in black suits driving a Department of Homeland Security vehicle arrived at his home within 36 hours to interrogate him about what he had seen. They told him not to speak of it again. AAWSAP also tested remote viewing as an intelligence tool. In March 2010, legendary remote viewer Joe McMoneagle was given a blind target designated 22610, which was actually Skinwalker Ranch. McMoneagle accurately described the landscape, the ranch managers, and the 2 security guards. But he also detected a 5th individual on the property, a male figure, 4 feet 3 inches tall, weighing 60 to 70 pounds, with no hair. McMonigal said this figure could not be seen by ranch personnel but attempted to communicate with them. The communication, McMonigal reported, would seem to come from above and behind their heads. On the night of February 7, 2011, the same night Lacatski was briefing Department of Homeland Security officials about the ranch's paranormal horrors, two events erupted simultaneously. In Virginia, young Paul Axelrod was being attacked by orbs in his bedroom. And at Skinwalker Ranch itself, security guard Philip Idiohorst entered the abandoned Homestead 2 on patrol. The room filled with a distinct presence. He could feel his heartbeat rising. Something was in the room with him. He mentally commanded, "Show yourself." Within 10 seconds, his flashlight, sitting on a shelf 15 feet behind him, blinked on and off. He commanded again. The flashlight blinked 3 more times. It was the clearest communication between a human and the intelligence on that ranch in 5 years. Kelleher wondered, had Lacatski's Pentagon briefing created a disturbance in the force? When AAWSAP's funding ran out in December 2010, officials tried to relocate the program to the Department of Homeland Security. After an extraordinary 3.5-hour briefing left 2 senior DHS officials sleepless, enthusiasm was high. But when DHS investigators knocked on doors at other agencies to access sequestered advanced technology, they were met with hostility. No, and hell no. They came away convinced that exotic materials were locked away under government supervision at aerospace contractors' facilities. The program's legacy, nearly 100 separate reports standing 6 feet tall in binders, was shipped to DIA. Those reports documented what the final assessment stated bluntly: the UAP phenomenon is a threat to human health and well-being. The Soviet Union had been ahead of us. AAWSAP translated classified Russian documents revealing Thread 3, a massive UAP research program launched in 1991, involving 15 military units and scientific institutes, dwarfing anything the United States had ever acknowledged. Meanwhile, at home, the stigma remained. The program that had produced 38 advanced physics papers on warp drives and metamaterials, that had built autonomous UAP surveillance platforms, that had pioneered the study of the human body as a readout system for close encounters, was reduced to a political hot potato. The New York Times would not break the story until December 2017. But for those who had been inside the program, who had seen the creatures and the orbs and the shadows, who had watched their families fall ill, the silence was deafening. What is Skinwalker Ranch? The data suggests something far stranger than extraterrestrial visitors. An intelligence that infects like a disease. That follows people home across thousands of miles. That attacks children in their beds. That causes cancer and autoimmune collapse. That communicates through flashlights and telepathy and terror. Bar scientists modeled it as an infectious agent with a basic reproduction number of 3, spreading from visitor to family to neighborhood. They compared it to the bizarre events at Lawrence Livermore Laboratory in 1973, when scientists studying Uri Geller's psychic abilities began seeing flying saucers and enormous birds and black shadows in their own homes. The pattern repeats across decades. The question is no longer whether the phenomenon is real. The question is whether we are ready to understand what it wants from us, and whether understanding it will change us in ways we cannot take back.